when we realized that it was ungodly, or?
Well,
no.
Either way, or when you actually enjoy it.
I believe what he's saying is that, is there any time that you feel like you should stay in there to be the light, to bring others to the light?
Well, I can say I thought that a couple of times, but then I realized I would be a hypocrite. Because I can't tell you that this organization is ungodly and I'm still in it. You know what I mean? Because it's like at the end of the day, people can say, I'm not going to go to the meetings, I'm not going to be active. And I actually put that in my denouncement letter to nationals. But I realized people still knew me as a Delta if I didn't go to the meetings or not. People still were like, oh, I remember when, like, how do I have to do this to become one, and things like that. And I realized, like, I could say we do all this great work, but it's better to obey than to sacrifice. And that work means nothing if it's not given to God. So
Amen.
Trying to stay in the organization would be hypocritical. So.
Anybody else?
I'll be honest, I'm just being real. I never felt that way. Just because by the time that God really showed me that it wasn't of Him, I'm just being honest. I wasn't thinking about nobody else. Because I'm really not. But I mean, because God came for me to the point of saying, your salvation, your soul is at stake. It wasn't that I did, just in that moment of understanding how much I hurt God. That's what I felt. I felt his displeasure with me. I felt his anger with me. I felt his sadness. And so in that moment, all I wanted to do was, I was done. And it wasn't until after, when we get to this point, where I'm thinking, where it got to where it's like, all these people and all these souls the enemy is trying to take. And for me, my mind is, how can I lead somebody out of something? And I'm telling you it's not of God, but I'm still in it. Like, cause then it's like, I'm a liar. You know what I mean? Like she said, it's a hypocrite, because it's just like, how can I help you? And I haven't even been delivered myself. I can give you some information, yes, but we two souls that's still lost and still bound. So I never felt that way, but I can, from a perspective, I see it as it's not really helping, because it's almost like you're standing there saying, leave, but you know what, I'm gonna stay here anyway, but I'm telling you, you need to go. You'll be looking at me like I'm crazy.
And you know what, I've talked to current members, and that's their response. Well, I'm here for God, or I'm doing this for the Lord, and I'm going to bring souls to Him through this process or through this organization. But like he told me during my process of fighting him, submitting, surrendering, and then literally hearing his flow and hearing him talk to me about it, just like I led people into it, I got to lead people out.
Amen.
That's the only way that it'll work. It's the only way. That's just like us sitting in an AA meeting, but I'm got a shot of whatever in front of me. I'm telling y'all, this is not good.
I also feel like it low-key plays into the enemy's agenda of deception. So, like, because I had one of my former big sisters tell me how, like, she believes God used the organization to, like, use her in the organization to bring people to Christ. And now that I'm on the outside looking in, I'm like, well, that's just the name of the game, deception, because people think that they can be Christian and be in these orgs. So yes, you're leading people to Christ, but you're leading them to a false belief of Christ. You're leading them to the lukewarm belief that you can, like, have this and have that. You can't have the world and have Jesus too at the same time. So that's just, my take.
And it kind of ties into this question, because I do know a few people who are in these orgs, and they use that as their reason for why, or that we might think that they're bringing people to Christ. So, as someone who hasn't pledged, how do you recommend addressing or confronting someone about it, or is it kind of too? How would you recommend approaching that?
Well, the first people that witnessed to me were actually not Greek, and for some people you may get some backlash. They may say, like, oh, well, you're not in it, you don't understand. Because I did say to somebody, because she was supposed to do Delta, and I said, well, why didn't she join? She's like, it's ungodly, and she was just sharing why she didn't do it. And then she's like, Angela, I've been praying for you to get out. And so I was like, well, I don't think it's ungodly. Like, this person is in it, but you don't have to be a person that had alcoholism to witness to somebody that has a problem. You can also, again, we're part of Out From Among the Ministries, so it may be all females on this panel, but we have a lot of brothers in Christ that are out of these organizations too, and Masonry as well. So if you know somebody, if you don't feel comfortable going through this whole spiel and maybe you didn't retain all this information, you can say, well, I know somebody that is an ex-member. Would you like to talk to them? Or, and we will be gladly to talk to. I meet people that are in another, that was in like AKA or Sigma Gamma Rho. I may witness to them a little bit, but then I actually refer them, especially for the guys. I may witness to them a little bit, but then I want them to actually talk to an actual man that was in that specific organization, because they can give more information. Mm-hmm. So I think because you have that connection with that loved one, you can be the door for them to connect them to somebody.
Yes, I totally agree. What I want to add to that is that, remember, we are no longer our own. We are being led by the Holy Spirit. So if there's somebody that you really care for, and then you know that in it you probably had this conversation, pray to the Lord and he'll tell you how he wants you to do it. Because oftentimes, and I know I was guilty of this when I first came out, because of the gravity of it, I was like, you better get out or you going to hell. Yeah. And it wasn't, in my head, it wasn't like I felt like I was judging or condemning them. I was like, this is your salvation on the line, so get out. And what the Lord showed me, he was like, Jadine, when I showed myself to you, did somebody approach you that way? Did somebody tell you no? You went deeper in the word. And as I was cleaning you out and pruning you out, you would come to this thing. So I think for everyone in this room, if you have a loved one, be that seed that can be planted. And it's based off the information you got today. If you know a member, hey, what's this goat head? Do you know a goat head is associated with the symbol? And for them, they probably don't know, because we were deceived. We did not know. Everything we're sharing with you now is once we came out. We could not get this while we're in. So going back to what he's saying is, you can't really witness to somebody while you're still in there, because God is not sharing his secrets with you. We say in God we trust, but the question is, does God trust you? And it says it's impossible to please God if you don't believe he exists. Those who diligently search him, he rewards. And it's the secret thoughts and the secret things of God. And so therefore, that's how I answered both of those questions. Let the Spirit lead you. And no, you cannot be the light in darkness when this is like rooted in darkness. It's going to overpower you. And what happens is, we've had people who sat on these panels, wrote books, but because they didn't go out officially, they're in it, and they're in it that much more harder. Because the devil's just like Javay say, he owned you at one point. He's not going to let you go that easy. And so that's why it's a constant fight. And when the word says, renew your mind daily, renew it daily, because it's all in your mind. That war is in your mind, because you act out what you think. And so therefore we got to keep it pure and ready for him, and let him dwell us and lead us in what he wants us to do.
And I would also say, just be encouraged, and the Holy Spirit really will help you find the way. I'm in a situation now where I have a family member, is an elderly member of my family that I love dearly, and not only is he elderly, he's in a secret organization, and he's very ill, to the point where, he has Alzheimer's. So what I'm doing is fasting and praying, and I will fast and pray until whenever, because I love him that much, and pray for moments of clarity when we can have conversations. And God has provided that, and he has given me the words, like maybe he couldn't do like a 14-page prayer in his condition, but God has given me the words to pray with him, and I believe that, that he will continue to give me strength, because I'm trying to stand in the gap for this person, because I love him, and I care about his salvation, so just be encouraged.
And I would say, what a lot of times is that we'll be fearful, and that's what the enemy wants. The good thing about when you have a relationship with somebody, that's somebody that you know personally. It's like a catch-22. Sometimes people don't receive you because you know them and they feel, but the other thing is you'll be able to speak to something in that person that nobody else knows. Yeah. And one of the huge things I say, and that's why this Truth Tour is set up to not only talk about Greek letter organizations while we're going into purity next, is because there's so much more to this testimony. There's so much more to God pulling you out. Like, We can't just come out of Greek organizations and we still ain't living right for the Lord because we're still on our way to hell. Right?
Hello.
So, I mean, we could come out of Delta, we can come out of AK, we can do all this kind of stuff, but if I'm out here still sleeping around, if I'm out here still, all that was like, so it was in vain. So the thing is when you're talking to the person is, and I'm assuming this person confides in you, I'm sure, you know, as women, though, we talk about relationships, we talk about all these things, right? So the good thing is to interject at different moments as God leads you to kind of pull that in. Like when you're talking about brokenness and relationships and heartbreak, and you're looking at your sister and you're like, you keep picking the same dude. Like this is in your mind, like, girl, like what's wrong? You know what I mean? And you're able to say, well, sis, have you thought about like any open doors that you might have that is leading to where all these bad relationships, this heartbreak, and you know what God might be showing you that you connected to some things that might be of God. Hey, you know, I went to this event, I heard, you know, from different women, and I heard from people in the organization, and there's your. You know, instead of just coming straight at, you need to come out. You know what I mean? And that's the thing of us all growing. Just because we all came out, that doesn't mean that we all got it together. Yeah. Because we're all still learning. We're still, I know for me, is it still breaking off pride? God is still showing me of breaking off pride and those kind of, like, you don't realize how prideful you are. Not just with, not speaking on this stuff, but just other stuff. That we're just, we can be prideful, we can be vain. You know what I mean? All these things. So God is still cleaning this up because he's coming back for a spotless bride without, you know what I mean? You know, without wrinkle. So it's so many different aspects, and that's what I encourage you, you know. And does anybody else have questions?
I was just reading the list of things you guys have listed for how to pronounce. What did you write in the letter? Like, what did you say? Like, did you guys write something wrong, or can you just say, I don't want to be in the same?
That's what I did.
We actually have I'm going to actually show you, we can show you a sample. I actually have samples here as an example. So you'll be able to see something, how it kind of looks. But each person can tell how they actually did their letter specifically. Some people wrote, I told them straight up why I was actually, you don't have to, but I encourage you to, because somebody has to read that letter. Yeah. And it's a way to witness to somebody that you would never see. Mm-hmm. So I actually told them why I was leaving, that it was ungodly. Some people went long out and gave me scripture, and said why, and all this kind of stuff, but it really is up to the person. Some people just wrote the letter, was like, listen, I'm done, I just want out, I just need you to process. So, but I'm going to show you an example. We do have, you know, examples of sample, like, withdrawal letters. But it's really up to the person. I personally did share with them why I was leaving.
I think I did too. I didn't have I wasn't with Out From Among Them then, so I just wrote a letter and I shared with them specifically why I was leaving. And when I talked to, they wanted me to talk to somebody on the way out. You don't have to do it, but they want you to talk to, just make sure, you know, that you want to leave. And so I talked to the regional director, and I was on the phone for an hour, not because she was keeping me on, because I was like, this is a chance to have my scriptures. I was like a witness to her. So I definitely told people in my letter that I wrote to them, I definitely told them why, because I think they need to know.
For SGRHO, they had like requirements that you had to have, or they wouldn't like really recognize the letter and they'd make you do another one. But so I stated my name, the chapter I crossed, just, you know, the basic information. And then they want to know, what did you do with your things? If you didn't already like disperse with them, then you had to return it, and you had to sign it. So if I had submitted the letter without like scanning it and then signing it, they wouldn't have accepted it either. So outside from covering like the requirements, I also used it as an opportunity to witness, and I put a scripture below and everything, like, you know. And before I wrote the letter, the executive director, like, she called me, and, you know, SGRHO is kind of small, so like when you hear, and people don't often renounce, well, they do now, but people don't often renounce SGRHO. It's usually like AKA or Delta. So I guess like my case kind of like, oh my God, like somebody's leaving. So she called me and we spoke for about like an hour, and it was a respectful conversation, but we were going back and forth. She was telling me why it was godly. She said people look at her as like the Jesus of her like line and all that stuff. Yeah. So I mean, but yeah, so my process was sent through directly to her. Now I tell people, I mean, I don't know if that was just like a grace from God or anything, because I was just so eager to leave and they kept playing games. But the process that they gave me, I assume it's the same for everybody else. So, yeah, just once you hit the requirements, they don't really require much after that. So,
Well,
yeah.
I was ready to get out, and when they told me what I had to do, I was like, nah. Y'all hazed me to get in, and now y'all trying to haze me to get out. I'm not doing all that. So I was like, God knows my heart. I renounced spiritually in 2015. I was like, I'm not doing all this stuff. And so it would actually take Endia. The Lord used her to convict me to actually do it, because by this time I was speaking out against it. One of the things the enemy does is when you come out, you know, we commend them coming out while they're on campus or coming straight out of school. He does a work in you where he basically says your story doesn't matter. Like, keep it to yourself, be quiet. So I denounced in 2015, but because of the backlash and the responses that I was getting for the women that I thought I was close to joining the organization, I basically went and sat in a corner, because that's what Satan wanted me to do. So I didn't say anything. I was like, based off the response that I was getting from them, I'm pretty much done. And the Lord started dealing with me. He was like, I didn't take you out to keep this to yourself. Yeah. There's other people that needs to hear this story. So I officially go out and put it on social media in 2017, April 2017. And by this time, Endia saw my post. We connected. So I never had met her, but she saw my post. We connected. And Endia just had this thing in her. I need a letter. I need to be out. And I was like, girl, don't worry about that. God got you. You in the book of life now. You don't even got to worry about that. Because I promise you, Delta is doing the most. And so, you know, talking to her, she made the decision like in May. By December, she gets her letter from headquarters. So I remember just the joy in her voice that I could hear, and her posting it, and how when she posted it, God was dealing with another Delta from her chapter who was on a fast, and God told her, go on social media. The first thing she saw when she went on social media coming off the fast was India's letter. And so that confirmed for her that she needed to get out. And so I said, you know what? It was almost like you're being a hypocrite, because you're talking about you're out and how God did this, but you're still in the docks. Like, if they do a roll call, you're still there. So when she got her letter in 2017, I want to say 2 weeks later, I got the paperwork that she used. I submitted it to headquarters, but headquarters, for some reason, did not want to let me go. So I did this December 2017. I did not get the letter until December 2018. And this is me fighting, texting, emailing, calling, like, where is this letter? Give it to me. So from that standpoint, you know, from a legal standpoint, it felt good to have it. But I knew at the end of the day, when I renounced it spiritually in 2015, I was done with it. I was done, and I knew I would not go back. And so I was like, I'm not doing all that. But eventually I did, and I'm glad I did, because it sets an example. Just like when he asked, it's like, okay, you say you're out, whatever, but because you don't have that, you can always go back in.
And something for Jadine that both her and I did is, both her and I, at different points in time, is we went to the Lord and said, God, you told us to come out, we're not going into this next year in this thing.
Yeah.
So I prayed that prayer, and my birthday is in December. And my letter was in my mailbox on my birthday. Oh. And that day when I got, and that's when she heard my joy, I was like in tears that day, because I heard the Lord say, today I give you new life.
Amen.
The day I was born, he gave me new life.
Hallelujah.
And that letter, the other thing is, remember we all talked about covenant? This shows divorce papers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That shows divorce paper, okay? That's your name it to show it like I'm done. And so that's why for me it's important. And that letter's still in my house. And I still post that letter, because I don't play no games with the fact that the Lord told me to come out of this. Because there's so much, I cannot say enough, and I know we got to go into the purity part, is the freedom. I cannot express. And that's probably why, not probably, it's why we are so passionate. Mm-hmm. It's because when you get free in Jesus, there's no other feeling. Like, I will start crying. Like, because I knew in the moment that God was pleased with me. And to know that he was pleased with me means more than, you cannot like me all day long, but to know that he was pleased with me means okay.
All right.
You know what I mean? And it's not to discount people, but it's just the principle of, that's our king. That's our savior. And to know that he's pleased. And the other thing I want to tell you, because we're talking about these letters, I said remember I said everybody can get a copy of a sample denouncing letter. This is just a template. So a person can write, every organization needs a letter for you to tell them that you want out. Everyone. And my recommendation is that you make sure these are notarized so that they know it's you. And that's just, I'm a type A person, Jadine talked about that. My thing is that you want to do everything, and so when you're sharing this with somebody, that you do everything, you cross your T's and dot your I's to make sure everything is set. And then the other thing that we have for everybody, because since people know people in Greek organizations, we all got the process for how you do the job from all 4 sororities. Okay, so there's a copy for everybody, because that's good for people that know people in organizations for you to take back and be able to share, given the time for you to do so.
And pray over that letter as well, before you send it.
So, I don't want to, does anybody have any other questions? We do have to move into the period section, but, anybody have a last question before I close out?
Like for the people you follow on social media, do you follow them?
That's a great question.
Great
Thing
question.
now
Great question.
where, well, first of all, you guard your heart in whatever it means necessary. So if some people are freshly getting out, it depends on your walk with God, but if you know you can't see that stuff because it may tempt you, block them. Or not block them, unfollow them. I don't block anybody because if I share something with somebody and they they may see it, or even if it's not about, it could be about fornication, it could be about anything else. I don't follow people that, curse or do certain things because I don't want to slip up and read something and I'm like, oh man, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't unfriend them. Now I got some people that unfriended me because they sick of hearing about Jesus, but I encourage, if you don't block them, but just unfollow them.
Right.
So guard your heart.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I can be honest. When I first came out and what happened, I was delete. And because they were like, bye, Felicia. And I was like, well, bye, Felicia, to you too. But then again, this is what relationship looks like in the tugging of the Lord and him speaking. He was like, how are you going to reach them if you're doing the very thing that they're doing to you? When he says, turn another cheek, this is you turning another cheek. So he was like, if they want to unfollow you or block you, let them be the one to do that. But I have an assignment for you to do. And just like she said, every time we post, people don't like what I post because I don't only talk about Greek life. I talk about other things that going on that we know that's unbiblical because it's popular. People are doing it in ignorance. And of course, people DM me, message me like, thank you for sharing. Like, oh, I didn't know this, thank you, whatever. So yes, initially that's what I did. And then he told me, no, let them unfollow you or block you because I know what I'm going to do and how you're going to use your platform now. So therefore, let the chips fall where they are, but don't be part of the problem or don't go toe to toe for them. And that's what the flesh wants to do. That's what the enemy wants to do. Just like Endia said, just because we're coming out of Delta doesn't mean there's other things he's working in us. And if we don't fix those things, coming out of Delta will be in vain because you still not going to inherit the kingdom because you got unforgiveness in your heart or bitterness in your heart. That is still as much as a sin in being in these organizations and lying. There's 7 things God hates. One of them is a lying tongue. So just with that, so yes, guarding your heart.
I do want to say something really quickly.
Denise, we gotta close and get to the
real
workshop. So
real quick, and that is true. You can make that mistake of getting into like a back and forth with people. I made that mistake just recently. I posted something on another topic and people came for me and I just went right into my flesh, like like not cursing, but just like arguing with them, like casting my pearls before swine, as opposed to coming a different way.
So we do have to wrap up only because we have a period workshop we get to when it's going to be, and we're going to have time even after this for prayer. Talk a little bit more. You can talk with us one-on-one. So we have time scheduled for that. So it's not that you won't still be able to ask them some questions. It'll probably just be more one-on-one. Okay. I just want to close with the fact of obviously we're on social media. We have the website. Please, you can go to the website. Obviously we're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And then if you just have questions, if something you come up with after, today, how times things come up because you want, I should have asked that while I was there. You can email us, okay? So you can always reach us. We're here, obviously, to serve you. You know what I mean? And so if you have people that are in it, like Angela mentioned, we will talk to people one-on-one, by phone, whatever. If they live locally in the city, we'll meet with people. You know what I mean? If they're local where we are.